What's up, fifth grade? Mr. G here. Another episode of Mr. G's Math Videos. Got an exciting one for you today. Today, we're going to be learning how to divide decimals using a hundreds grid. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So before we get started, I want to talk to you about some patterns that we need to know when we're dividing by decimals. So whenever we divide by a tenth, that is going to be the same thing as us multiplying by 10. If I divide by 100th, that's going to be the same thing as me multiplying my number by 100. If I divide by 1/1000th, that is going to be the same as me multiplying by 1000. Let me go into a little more detail and show you why that is. So I've got a hundreds grid right here, and I have the equation 1 divided by 1/10. Now, 1 divided by 1/10 is the same thing as me saying 1 times 10. Here's why. If I take one whole and divide it into tenths, how many pieces will I have? So let's go ahead and take a look at how that works out. So here's my whole, and I want to divide it into tenths. There's a tenth. There's another tenth. A third tenth. A fourth tenth, fifth tenth, sixth tenth, seventh tenth, eighth tenth, 9/10, and then finally here's my 10/10. So I took my one whole and I divided it into tenths. How many pieces did I have? I had 10. So 1 divided by tenths is actually 10. And again, you can now see why it's the exact same thing as 1 times 10. All right, so now that we kind of have that under our belt and that understanding, let's go ahead and look at some actual problems. So I have 2 divided by 2/10. Now, in our last example, you saw how when we divide by a decimal, our answer is actually a larger number. So if I have 2 wholes and I divide those 2 wholes into groups of 2/10, how many groups will I have? Okay, so here are my 2 wholes, and now I'm going to start dividing it up into groups of 2/10. So there's a group of 2/10. Here's another group of 2/10. Here's another group of 2/10. A fourth group of 2/10. A fifth group of 2/10. Sixth group of 2/10. 7 groups of 2/10. 8 groups of 2/10. 9 groups of 2/10. And then finally, I can make another one that's going to give me 10 groups of 2/10. So 2 divided by 2/10, the answer is actually 10. So you can see how we ended up with a larger number because we're counting how many groups we were able to make when we split up 2 wholes into groups of 2/10. All right, so that's an example of where we take a whole number and we divide it by a decimal. Let's go ahead and look at one more example of that. So in this problem, I have 2 and I want to divide it into 2500ths. So I want to ask myself, how many groups of 2500ths will go into 2 wholes? So I take my 2 decimal grids and I'm just going to start making groups of 2500ths, and then I'll count those groups, and however many groups I have will be my answer. Okay, so here's a group of 2500ths. 2 groups of 2500ths, 3 groups of 2500ths, and then 4 groups of 2500ths. So one whole, I can make 4 groups of 2500ths. So 2 wholes, I should just be able to double that, and that should be my answer. So there's 5 groups, 6 groups, 7 groups, and then finally 8 groups of 2500ths. So the answer to my problem is 8. 2 divided by 2500ths is 8. So those are going to be 2 examples when we take a whole number and we divide it by a decimal. Let's go ahead and look at another type of problem where we take a decimal and we divide it by a whole number. So in this problem, I have 36 hundredths divided by 3. So now I've got to change my thinking a little bit on this one. I have 36 hundredths, and I'm going to be making 3 equal groups, and I want to figure out what is going to be the size of each of these groups. So 36 hundredths split into 3 equal groups. So I take my decimal grid, I'm going to fill in my total, which is 36 hundredths. So there's 30 hundredths, and there's my 600ths. And I want to see if I split this up into 3 equal groups, what is going to be the size of each of those groups? So to help me think about this a little easier, I want to break 36 into easier parts. I'm going to break it down into a 30 and a 6. And the reason I'm choosing those is because both 30 and 6 are divisible by 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at my 30 hundredths. And if I were to break those into 3 equal groups, what would be the size of those groups? When you look at those 30 hundredths, can you see 3 groups of something? Here's what I see. I see 3 groups of a tenth. So 30 hundredths divided into 3 groups is going to give me 1/10. Now I'm going to look at the 600ths, and I'm going to ask myself, if I were to make 3 equal parts, how many would be in each part? Well, I see 2. I can break that 6 into 2 equal parts, or 200ths in each part. So now all I have to do is combine. So I'm going to combine my tenth plus my 200ths, and that's going to give me 1200ths. So I see 3 equal groups of 1200ths. One group is in black, the other group is in red, and then the last group is in blue. So 36 hundredths divided into 3 equal groups, that's going to give me 12 hundredths for the size of the group. So we've done 2 types of problems where we've taken a whole number and we've divided it by a decimal, and now we've looked at how we do a decimal divided by a whole number. So the last 2 problems, these are where you're going to try it on your own. So the first problem I want you to do is 24 hundredths divided by 6. So here's the decimal grid. I'm going to fill in 24 hundredths for you. And now all I need you to do is think about, if we take 24 hundredths and we split it into 6 equal parts, what's going to be the size of each part? And then the second problem I want you to think about is, I'm going to give you a model that's already been split into groups, and your job is to figure out what equation this is representing. So look at how much is filled in, look at how many groups there are, and then decide what the size of the groups are, and then see if you can write the equation that this is representing. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can work on these 2 problems on your own. And then when you're done, unpause it and I'll walk you through the process. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this first example. 24 hundredths divided into 6 groups. I need to figure out what is the size of each group. So one of the strategies I do is I just think about this as whole numbers. If I had 24 and I wanted to divide it by 6, how many times does 6 go into 24? Well, the answer to that is 4. So I'm going to see, can I make 6 equal groups of 4 hundredths? Let's find out. There's 1 group of 4 hundredths, 2 groups of 4 hundredths, 3 groups of 4 hundredths, 4 groups of 4 hundredths, 5 groups of 4 hundredths, and then I can see I am able to make that last group for 6 groups. So I can make 6 groups, and the size of the group, which is what I'm trying to find out, is 4 hundredths. 4 hundredths is going to be my answer. All right, in problem number 2, we were looking at what equation this model is representing. So the first thing I said to do was, let's just look at the total, what is filled in. So I noticed that there are 5 columns of 1/10, and that's going to give me a total of 5/10, or we could also say 50 hundredths. Then I look at how it's being broken up, and I see that it's being broken up into 5 equal groups. So I see 50 hundredths, I'm dividing it by 5 equal groups, and then all I have to do is figure out how much is in each group. So I see that there's 5 in this row and 5 in the next row. So that's going to be 10 hundredths. So the equation that this model was representing was 50 hundredths divided by 5 equals 10 hundredths or 1/10. Okay, so hopefully you are understanding this. This is us using division of decimals when we have grids and we're modeling it or drawing it out. In the next video that I'm going to be showing you, we're going to be looking at how to just do division of decimals using the standard algorithm. So stay tuned for that next video on our other strategy. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for me. I appreciate everybody watching our video on division of decimals on a hundreds grid. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Drop a comment. Are these videos helpful to you? Are you using them with that Canvas practice? Let me know how everything's going. And that is going to be it for me. Until next time, Manta Rays, keep on mathin'.